Science has been a very powerful tool in deciphering the physical mysteries of reality. We've discovered that causality is governed by the speed of light, that all matter is the various interactions between fields of probability, and that human genetic engineering is terrifyingly feasible. But there's one question science has yet dared to ask. If the universe is so big, why won't it fight me? To help answer this question, we brought on as our guest local favorite and tribal happy man, David Perry.
Hello.
Welcome to the Arbitrarium podcast.
Thank you.
All right, so why won't science even pose this question?
Well, Garrett, I think they've had some conversations about it, but I think by and large it's been sort of unanimously decided that it's a really fucking stupid question. But we here at the Arbitrarium, that's what we're here for. We're here to answer really fucking stupid questions.
For your entertainment.
Yes. In the spirit of answering really fucking stupid questions, let's tackle it.
So first, why would the universe even want to fight me?
Oh, I mean, well, now we're starting off big. We're starting off with a big question. We're saying that the universe should... Well, are you assuming that the universe wants anything?
I'm going to say that the universe should want anything it wants.
But what if it doesn't want anything? Maybe that's
the
whole
punk
answer.
Bitch. Fight me.
maybe the first problem is that you're assuming that it has want.
I don't know why it wouldn't. I mean, it made itself, presumably, depending on who you ask. So it at least wants to make itself, because it did it already, right?
Yeah, and what's really funny about this conversation is that you and I have had this conversation before, but I was doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
I was making the argument, which I actually plan to write about, the argument that because there is a movement, we'll say, a movement of the universe going from one state to another, and I would basically say fractal directions in every which way possible, the fact that there seems to be things that the universe likes, for lack of better words, prefers, that's a better word. It's some things that the universe prefers, that there is some kind of decision happening on a fundamental level.
Okay.
So if we're going to start from the bottom, maybe we'll start with that. Why or how do we know that the universe wants something? Because it does things in a particular order. It shows preference.
Okay.
So now we've established.
Well, I prefer that it put its dukes up, and let's do this.
Okay. Well, what's your beef with the universe?
I mean, I don't know why anyone wouldn't have a beef with the universe. I mean, you're called into existence without even being asked, and now you're suddenly forced to find your own meaning? Come on, that's some bullshit, man.
Okay, so we're going... Well, this isn't really nihilism. I mean, there's some nihilistic elements to it, I guess, but that's mostly an attitude. Okay, so you're called into existence, you didn't ask to be here, so why the fuck should you... It's not even, that's the interesting thing, it's not even a question of why should you exist, why should you be responsible for any of this. You've gone beyond that point. And now, it's like, no, I am resentful, and the universe had better fucking fight me.
Yeah.
Right now, because I'm angry.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you going to do to the universe if it steps up?
I think...
What's your plan for beating the universe?
My plan for beating the universe is... Step one... Give it a really hard think. Step two, reverse entropy, and then I can win.
But the universe theoretically has some measure of control over causality. How are you going to get around that?
Theoretically,
how are you going to get around the universe pulling a Bull and Ted on your ass?
A Bull and Ted?
A Bill and Ted. Did I say Bull and Ted?
You said Bull and Ted.
I meant Bill and Ted. Fix it in post.
So if the universe pulls a Bill and Ted on me through some time travel bullshit, then it's already breaking its own rules. So in that way, by violating its own, I don't know, procedures, then I have somewhat won because it had to do that to fight me.
No, you still lost. Because you're dead.
No, at that point I would never have been called into existence, wouldn't have been angry, and the fight never would have had to happen.
That's really a win for the universe, though.
Yeah, I still get what I want.
Well, you didn't establish what you wanted.
I want to fight the universe.
But then you didn't fight the universe because it made you not exist before you had a chance to
But
fight.
it had to fight me to make me not exist.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, it did.
No, it didn't. Mm-hmm. No, because it
The
already...
the act of implementing the Bill and Ted Garrett erasure program in and of itself would be, I guess, like, I don't know, throwing a left hook. I'll take that.
No, but see, because of causality, it didn't actually happen. It didn't need to happen.
No, it has to continually happen each time. If you're breaking causality, then you're going to be going through time loops. Because if it doesn't do that, then I'm back, and then it has to do it again. So it has to continually prevent me from existing in every
You sure
serious
that's how it
timeline.
works?
Well, it depends on how time travel actually works. Are we going alternate universe theory? Are we going fixed time like curves?
Well,
Are we
okay.
going are we going the route of grandfather paradoxes?
Grandfather paradoxes?
Yes.
Explain that one.
Okay, so let's say in my attempt to avoid the misery of being called into existence, I go back in time and shoot my grandfather when he's in the crib.
Oh, okay.
Therefore, he cannot exist, or he cannot, procreate. Therefore, my father is never born. Therefore, I am never born. Therefore, I never go back in time and kill
Right.
my grandfather. Right. So I am created, and then I go back. Yeah, that's the grandfather paradox.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I just didn't
Now,
know it had a name.
you can play that through that continual loop instead of going, thinking about it as one loop. It's actually two that can keep repeating, and then you don't necessarily have a paradox at that point.
Yeah, but at that point, are you just coming up with an answer to satisfy the question, or are you coming up with an answer because it is the answer?
I don't know. I mean, we're getting into, very theoretical physics. The only way that we'll be able to answer that one is if someone invents time travel, at which point we can beat the universe by not letting it exist in the first place.
So your great plan for beating the universe is suicide. Actually, it's
some
so
cultures,
big there isn't even a word for it.
In some cultures, it's deicide. And that,
okay, that would be the biggest word I can think for it. Deicide.
And if you can do that, well, I mean, pat yourself in the back.
Yeah, but see, I feel...
Because
no.
you get to keep what you kill in this scenario.
No. See, the way that seems to work to me is... To me, that's you staring at yourself in the mirror and saying, I know how to beat you, and pulling a gun and shooting yourself in the head.
It worked for Edward Norton.
Yeah, but he had another personality he was trying to get rid of, and that whole scene was kind of bullshit. I mean, it's a great movie. I love Fight Club, but that scene was kind of dumb.
Well, in the book, he's rendered retarded, but he does actually survive.
Oh, well, okay. So it's different than in the movie.
Yeah, it is. Because no one wanted to see a retarded Edward Norton after that movie. They wanted to see him win.
They never saw the score? Although, to be fair, he wasn't actually retarded in that movie. He was pretending to be retarded.
Are we allowed to use retarded?
Probably not.
Because I know Kirky was a little...
She didn't like that. Mentally handicapped? I don't know. It's like...
Cognitively challenged.
Differently abled, I think, is the way... I don't know. It changes quite a bit. But I guess we could say differently abled.
Bullet-induced cognitive...
I feel like we're being more insulting by exploring this space than if we had just left it alone.
That was kind of the point.
Okay.
If you haven't been able to tell, ladies and gentlemen, this is by no means a serious conversation.
No.
We're just having fun with this one.
Oh boy, where do we go from here? First, we're dealing with time problems to see if we can beat the universe by traveling through time within the universe to stop the universe.
It in this scenario. You started the whole universe time traveling to prevent me in existing in the first place. So the universe started the time travel shenanigans. We're just finishing it by not letting it exist in the first place.
No, it's not letting you exist in the first place.
Right, and then we're back to the grandfather paradox if that's the way you want to go about it. If you're going with fixed time like curve, then it's kind of a take on determinism.
Okay, so, well, we can do this. Do we want to indulge in infinite universe theory here? Infinite multiples of the universe. Because in that situation...
I've won in in half of the infinities, and the universe is one in the other half of the infinities.
No, because, okay, so we're limiting the universe to Okay, iterations of the universe.
Right. That's what I mean. Multiple universe theory.
Well, then how have you won in half and lost in the other half?
Well,
Because it goes infinitely in both directions, and every direction which way.
so if there is a slight possibility that I could fight and win against the universe, then if it can happen over a long enough time scale, it will. Now, when we're talking about multiple timelines and multiple universes, you're kind of running off into infinity. Therefore, even the very smallest chance becomes an infinite chance of it happening.
Yeah.
Because it will have happened an infinity of times.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going to say, if it's possible for me to beat the universe in, I want to say, a fist fight, then I will have fought and won the universe.
In some iteration.
In a cage match somewhere.
But here's the thing. The universe gets to exist in infinite iterations. You do not.
No, I do.
No, you die in those.
I die in half of them.
At least half of them. The universe does
It
not.
could just knock me out and not...
I think
if the universe knocked me out, I probably would say, all right, you win.
We're talking about infinite universes, right? Which means there are an infinite number of universes. Which means if there are an infinite number of universes and not an infinite number of yous, because you die, and at least minimum half of them, I'm not sure exactly where you're getting that number. Because if it's infinite, there's no half.
No, you can have half of infinity and it's still infinity. That is how infinity works. It's crazy.
That doesn't make sense.
It does. Come on.
Where's the halfway point in infinity?
Wherever you want to put it, really, because it doesn't matter. Everything's infinity at the infinity point.
So if it doesn't matter, then there is no infinity point. There is no halfway.
So I win in an infinite in number of universes, and the universe wins in an infinite number of universes.
Maybe because we're dealing with infinite.
Yes.
See, that's a tricky word.
Yeah.
Because then we're dealing with paradoxes.
Well, it depends. Are they all on the same timeline?
We're assuming the timelines. One thing that we have seemingly come to understand is that time is relative to space.
Yes, time as it flows.
Yes,
is intrinsically tied to space.
Right. So time is not going to be an overarching element of all of those infinite universes at the same time. It's going to be dependent. It's going to be different in each universe.
Well, that is a general relativity assertion, which we find is true to the best of our ability. All the experimentation that we've done regarding general relativity shows that yes, space and time are intrinsically linked through speed of light, which is really the speed of causality.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the first thing we talked about. However, and this is where we start getting into the really, how do we make the universe make sense when we have two competing descriptions of the universe that are equally true? Because everything we've thrown at quantum field theory and quantum mechanics also shows, hey, this is also true. But general relativity says things are defined not really probabilistic, and everything with quantum mechanics is probabilistic. So at what point do these things merge? That's grand unified theory. If we can come up with that, well, then we'll probably, some people say we've solved physics. Others would say, well, we're probably just discovering a whole new can of worms to open. Now, the infinite worlds and multiple universe interpretation of quantum mechanics is an infinite different number of universes. For each quantum interaction on that little probability curve where all particles are going to end up,
Mm-hmm.
well, if a particle ends up here, well, that's one universe created on that probability curve. If one ends up here, that's another universe created on that probability curve.
See, to me, that doesn't make sense as something considered infinite, because it's still dependent on something. The creation of something is still dependent on if it does that.
Okay. Here's where we're gonna. That's for every particle in the universe. Now, I know what you're gonna say. Well, there's going to be a finite number of particles because we live in a finite universe. We don't know we live in a finite universe.
So we're getting into like theoryception here, though.
No, we're still on one theory. There is an observable universe, yes, roughly 96 billion light years across.
we think.
Well, that's the observable universe.
Oh, well.
That is what we can observe thanks to the expansion of space. There are points in space that are expanding faster than the speed of light. Space itself is not limited by that speed of causality thing. It can do whatever the hell it wants in relation to itself, including moving faster than itself.
Okay.
Isn't physics fun, boys and girls? So, if we are in an infinite universe, then there's and the multiple worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics is true, then there are an infinite number of universes.
That doesn't make a lot of sense, because if the universe
Because there will be infinite particles in an infinite universe, each one on its own probability curve, popping up wherever it wants, and
how can the universe itself be infinite if there are multiple universes? How can one universe be infinite if there's more than one of them?
I don't know. If there's more than one universe, then we got multiverse stuff going on, which is another way of saying multiple worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics.
Well, see, the reason I'm saying that is that if you were looking at the universe as, a three-dimensional thing, right, it expands in all directions.
Until we start getting into string theory, which might have it upwards of 11 dimensions. But go on.
Okay, but if it's expanding in every possible way, infinitely, how can there be more than one of them? Because if there's more than one, that means there's boundaries.
Let me ask you a question in response to that.
One of them.
Where is heaven?
Where is heaven?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a whole other can of worms.
But you see where I'm going with on this, right?
Not specifically.
Okay. Is heaven in our universe?
I don't know.
Is it a physical place there?
I don't believe it is.
Okay. But it does exist.
Yes. For lack of better words. I mean, to be safe and not get into semantics, yeah.
The reason I ask that is, you're contemplating a concept that is outside of the universe, but the universe may be infinite.
It's not that it's outside of the universe, it's that it exists both within and without the universe.
Okay, well, this is where we're getting into brain theory. Not B-R-A-I-N, B-R-A-N-E, where all these universes are kind of stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, it's a flapjack.
And what separates each one is, a membrane of sorts.
I've heard about this one.
Yeah. So that's how you might have infinite universes.
But they wouldn't be infinite in all directions.
Well, depends on how many dimensions there are.
They'd have a pancake shape if they're stacked.
You're thinking in 3 dimensions here.
Well, yeah.
Our universe might have only 3 dimensions, 4 if you want to count time. But outside of this infinite universe, there could be, I don't know, bazillions of different dimensions that ours doesn't even touch on.
But see, it's hard. This is maybe it's a semantic issue. It's a conceptual issue for me because I cannot understand. I cannot conceive of a universe that is infinite in all possible ways, and that there can be more than one of them. Because if there's more than one, there is a boundary between them, which means that they cannot, in and of themselves, be infinite. Because there's a boundary.
Then heaven can't exist in our universe.
Yes, it can. If you think of heaven as something... see, here's where we get tricky. Because now we're getting into my personal theories about things. If you think of the universe as being built up from meaning, reality. That's a better way to look at it. If you think of reality as being built up, its constituent parts are not physical, but... what would you say?
Abstract?
Abstract, metaphysical. We'll say metaphysical.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of the universe if you think of reality as being constituted of meaning, its essential parts are meaning based, and not physical, the way we think of physical, not empirical. Then you have heaven as a conceptual space. It's real. This is not. I'm not saying when I say conceptual space, I don't mean imaginary. I mean that the space of thought is real, but it's not tangible. It's not physical. You know what I mean? That's why we call it metaphysical. And the realm of heaven, I guess, is, to me, the way that I look at that is that it can be within and without everything. because the universe is built up on meaning, right? When you think about it in terms of chaos and order, and not just, the physical attributes of it.
Okay.
And so, you've got chaos, which I would say is pretty much just the universe and its. Well, we all say it's reality. I don't want to use that interchangeably because they're not the same thing. It's reality.
Reality adds a perceptional.
That's important.
Bias towards the.
When I say reality,
I don't mean bias,
right.
but in order for there to be reality, you have to have a universe with perception.
Well, the reason I'm using reality instead of the universe is because reality can exist. If I say reality per se, what I mean is the all. Mm-hmm. The universe, whatever multiple universes there are, everything within and without that, everything. The all is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
The everyverse.
I call it the omni-realis.
The omni-realis?
Yes.
Is that like a high-speed train?
No.
That just
no. It has...
Ouroboros? What is that word?
Ouroboros?
Yes, Ouroboros.
No, it's not. Although Ouroboros is a... You know what? That's too complicated. Let's not do that. But so that's what I mean when I say reality. Reality is a thing in and of itself too, right? I mean, just because there doesn't have to be a perceptual bias to the idea of reality, because reality would be whatever everything is, whatever the all is, on its own, absent of observation. That's what I mean when I'm talking about reality. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to start talking about Kant necessarily, but anybody who's listening to this probably knows what I'm getting at. It's the idea of, I'm going to do it anyway, the phenomenal world and the noumenal world, right? The phenomenal world is the reality of things, things that we can interact with, things that are in physical space, tangible things, empirical things. And then you have the noumenal universe, which is what those things are, absent, like in and of themselves, absent of observation of them, right? So when I look, I don't want to belabor this too much, but when I look at a cup, maybe the cup's orange, but that's just my phenomenal perception of that cup is that it is an orange copper cup, right? I'm applying things to that cup. That's its phenomenal description. That's what it is as a phenomenon. Mm-hmm. The cup also has a noumenal existence, which is whatever that cup is on its own without perception, applying things to it. So just to try and clarify that. So when I'm talking about reality being constituted of meaning, what I'm saying is that, oh God, this is so difficult to explain.
You don't have time to write a short letter?
Yeah, see, that's the problem. I don't have time to write a short letter, but what we're getting at here is that if you think about the universe in terms of, or if you think about reality, in terms of being constituted of material, of meaning and not material things, then you don't run into that problem of where is heaven. Maybe an easier way to think about it is not in terms of heaven, but God. Right? Mm-hmm. You don't need to think about God in terms of where is he necessarily, because God isn't a concept, but a real concept, a concept that lives on its own, a concept with a life.
Presumably.
Yeah. So it's built up of meaning. God is constituted of meaning, not God is a man with a beard in the sky, right? So you don't run into a lot of those physical, tangible, empirical problems of description when you think about it in terms of that, and it's just as feasible, and from what I can tell, makes a hell of a lot more sense.
Okay. The other way makes perfect sense to me.
Well, you have to dive into this theory or that theory, and then you've got to figure out what your question, like how you're going to answer your question in this scenario, because this is a guess how things could be in this one way or another.
Well, okay, a theory is more than a guess.
Well, I know, all but right. I'm using the informal version of theory. What's a hypothesis? That's even worse.
Well, a hypothesis is closer.
Okay.
A hypothesis is, I don't know, a guess with direction.
Okay, maybe a hypothesis would be a better example, or a better term for that.
Because a theory is backed up by experimentation.
Right. So you still have to deal in hypotheses, right? I mean,
first
we have to say, well,
if you're going to learn anything, first you got to ask, is there something to learn?
Well, that's a whole different issue. I'm just talking about, well, we're trying to identify, like when you were asking me about which version of time travel are we going to use. It's like, well, we got to go with one and then answer the question. Then we got to go with another one and then answer the question. Then we got to go with another one and then answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's the reason that these are, different hypotheses of time travel is because, to the best of our knowledge, no one has ever done it.
Mm-hmm.
The first time someone ends up time traveling, then we'll have an answer at least in that form of time travel.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you make this wormhole to make this kind of time travel. You make this kind of wormhole to make a different kind of time travel. And if you don't want to use a wormhole, you get this kind of time travel. We don't know because no one's ever done it. So that's why we're operating from hypotheses and theories.
Mm-hmm.
Although, well, I suppose theories, you haven't really done it. You just observed it and tested it.
Mm-hmm.
And it still holds weight. But
it seems like your argument here is that no matter what scenario we look at, you win against the universe.
No, there's a scenario I couldn't do shit against. Personally. A micrometeoroid crashing through the ceiling, at least in this universe, I would definitely lose.
How do you come to that conclusion?
Well,
you have to assume that this is the only universe, because we already established, supposedly, that if there were multiple universes, you win in at least a certain percentage of them.
Yeah, in this universe, though, and this is the one that I'm actually concerned about, I would lose.
Well, if this is the one you're absolutely concerned about, then why are we even asking about multiple
You brought up the multiple universe thing. Don't give me that shit.
Okay, well, fine. Then you can lose a whole bunch of different ways if we're just talking about this particular universe.
Yeah.
Then we're just talking about this particular fucking timeline. All it has to do is kill you.
You brought up the time travel, and the universe started the time travel via your assertion.
Fine. Well, if that's all we're doing, then we'll throw all that bullshit out, and the universe can very easily win against you because you're really fucking weak in the face of a universe.
Well, yeah.
It's got much more power than you.
But, I mean, I would love to be able to brag that I beat the universe in a fist fight. I don't think it's actually going to happen.
All right, well, here's my argument. So, clearly, you're still here.
Mm-hmm.
Your complaint is that the universe won't fight you. Right?
Yes.
I would say that the universe is currently winning.
Because I'm living myself to death.
Well, no. Because, basically what's happening is you have unrequited spite. And as we've discussed before, not on the podcast, the only thing worse than unrequited love is unrequited hatred. So, the universe is winning by letting you live out the misery of not being able to fight it.
I don't know. If it fucks with probability so that I do stub my toe, I can consider that a sign that it hates me back.
Yeah, but it might not be doing that. This may just all be random bullshit, and you're losing even more because now you're just caught up in this weird, pathetic, blaming the universe for all of your problems loop, and it's just kind of sitting back like, whatever. Okay.
Hey, kid, don't blame me for your misery. Okay, I created this whole thing.
All right. I think we are at a breaking point here. Well, break point. We may be
I'm
at a
about to get my gloves on. I'm going to do this in my backyard universe.
We got about 1 minute left. Is there anything you'd like to add before we go to our commercial break?
No. There is. I think we could have a lot more fun with this, but we're going to move on to a different way of fighting the universe and different reason and why it might not fight back.
After a word from our sponsor.
Oi, Angus! You smell like a ripe horse!
Oi, feck off!
Scottish Bog Soap. It's not English, but it'll do.
And welcome back to the Arbitrarium podcast. Please give our sponsors a visit. So, I'm probably not going to be able to fight the universe as a whole. That just doesn't seem feasible. I give him a nasty left hook, but the universe as a whole will just take that punch. It's not going down to that. So I'm wondering, The universe is made up of things. What things can I
Supposedly.
fight enough of
Theoretically.
that
Allegedly.
maybe the universe will cry uncle? So let's start small. Let's start really small. Can I punch a quark?
Yeah, I'm sure you could.
Or
Probably have already, in fact. Probably many times.
probably a lot of quarks. But then,
yes.
then the quarks in my fist, they might betray me.
Yes.
And
You
So-
are certainly outnumbered,
so at best, this is a tie
at
between
best.
the quarks.
At best, and that's being plot armor generous.
All right. So quark probably not fighting quarks effectively. And that logic will extend to individual atoms and molecules, and I think we can go to cells.
Okay.
I think I might be able to fight a bacterium. I do that on a daily basis.
Yeah,
We all do on a daily basis.
involuntarily.
I mean, I think it's cool that I have an army of microscopic organisms that will fight to the death to preserve my life. And everyone does. So, be proud of your immune system. Treasure it. Cherish it. Boost it every once in a while with some probiotics.
Sometimes it betrays you, though.
Yeah, you have things like MS and Crohn's disease is an autoimmune?
I believe so.
Okay. Please correct us in the comments if we're wrong. But autoimmune diseases sometimes, maybe they just didn't cherish their immune responses enough, and that's why they get these things. That was a joke. No offense to anybody who actually has an autoimmune disease. My heart goes out to you.
It sounded like your cat might have been upset by that.
I think my cat Nico is always trying to fight the universe, and I commend him. Except in his case, the universe is his tail.
True. Hey, two of our favorite people have one of our favorite people and one that I kind of like, they have autoimmune problems. Big ones.
Who's that?
Peterson and his daughter Michaela.
Oh,
Definitely his daughter Michaela and definitely him.
and that's why you eat beef. Nothing but beef.
That is a big part of it, yes. Yes, so your plan is to fight the entire universe
With my
by
immune system.
sneezing on its toenails.
No. By letting my immune system do its thing, and eventually, in a long enough timeline, it should win.
You're going to die well before that timeline comes to a conclusion.
I hadn't thought about that. Okay, well, what about bugs? Small. There are wasps that are microscopic
I think we've discovered the problem with this theory. You have to find something big enough
that I can fight.
that you can kill it before you die, and that will also kill the universe. The problem
Like
with
a
that
squirrel.
is
How many squirrels would I have to kill to make the universe go uncle?
I don't know. It's a really fucking stupid question, as we have established. I'm not sure how to answer that question. I'm not even really sure how to assemble the ideas necessary to answer that question.
All right. What if we invent a robot that takes matter and spits out live squirrels that I can punch? The paperclip maximizer concept, but instead of paperclips, it's squirrels.
I would say that if any of these harebrained schemes were feasible, the universe has the most idiotic level caliber of hubris I can possibly imagine, because it just lets you do it. Just letting you do it, because at any point in the process of creating this contraption, it could kill you
It could.
quickly.
It could. But maybe it's just going for humiliating me. And I'm trying to fight it physically because I'm too dumb to fight it any other way.
So you're applying things to the universe at that point, though.
Well,
More than we've already established.
you're applying that it will do something instead of just stand there like a punk bitch.
That's true, but we established the universe wants something. Like there's something happening there, right?
We'll
We'll
get into that later.
Hypothetically, we hypothetically, for lack of better words, proved that, I guess. But
We have strongly asserted it, if nothing else.
yes, we have strongly asserted it, which means if that's the case, then the universe isn't just going to stand there like a punk bitch and take it, because the universe Sorry, it's been around a lot longer. I'm going to say it's probably a little wiser than you and is aware of the powers that it has, and is probably also aware that it doesn't want to not exist anymore. The only way that plan would win is if the universe wants to die, and if the universe wants to die, you're just giving it what it wants, which means really you lose.
But I win at the same time.
No, no, you don't. You give the universe exactly what it wants, and you die.
I mean, the best thing the universe ever did was get its shit together and explode. So,
Well, its shit was already together. Wasn't that the problem?
yeah, it was bored, and it's like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna make shit by exploding, and that's pretty metal.
So why do you hate the universe if it's pretty metal?
Because I mean, there's things that are pretty metal that I don't necessarily like. Scarification, for one. I mean, you see someone who's going into scarification, like, whoa, that's pretty metal. Not something I'd ever do, and I really don't approve of it. But, that
you
kind
think
of
that
thing.
the universe and being so powerful over so long a period of time has just gone soft?
I think it's gotten complacent.
So that's your opportunity.
Yeah. To blindside it with a squirrel printer. So
I have reservations.
The average mass of a squirrel is what?
I don't fucking know.
We'll say it takes 2 squirrels to make 1 kilogram of squirrel. That seems about fair.
Sure.
I mean, they're small squirrels, but
This is all bullshit. What's a little more bullshit?
right. So I'd have to get a squirrel printer that. I think we're running into another situation where I would not live long enough to punch enough squirrels.
Yeah, that's the issue. You've got to find something big enough that you could kill it, and in a large enough number that it would kill the universe by extension.
Well,
The only way that I don't see this. The problem is, at best, it's mutually assured destruction because the moment that the universe no longer exists, neither do you.
all right. Well, maybe this is a Cold War scenario where the only thing keeping, the universe from collapsing is my imminent threat to it. So it doesn't want to start too much shit, and I can't really do much to it. But it's like the Cold War.
What makes you the
one
best?
starts at,
What makes you the best person to kill the universe?
What makes me the worst person to kill the universe?
I'm not saying that you're the worst person to kill the universe. I just want to know what makes you the best person to kill the universe. Why has nobody else tried it? Why are you the one that's going to succeed? What makes you so damn special, you bastard?
Because everyone else cares too much.
Oh, yeah, that's the difference. I have met people who are far more nihilistic than you.
Yeah, they have total lack of meaning. I have meaning in trying to fight the universe.
Yeah, but the universe doesn't seem to give a shit. So it kind of wins. The universe's inherent nihilism beats your petty bullshit. It's just going to ignore you until it's watch you punching air, punching squirrels until you die. I'm pretty sure in that scenario the universe wins. It's observing you punching squirrels and rage against it until you die. Not only do you lose, but you lose spectacularly in one of the most pathetic ways I can possibly imagine.
I don't know.
You go out punching squirrels thinking that it's going to destroy the universe.
There would be some mention in a Guinness Book of World Records for the man who punched the most squirrels and invented a squirrel printing machine.
You think that?
It would get to the point where I'd punch a squirrel, it'd die, it'd go back into the machine to make a new live squirrel. I suppose we could.
That's efficient. You only really need one squirrel.
Well, no, we gotta start cranking out even more,
Well,
depending
we
on
did
how
discuss
fast that
entropy.
machine moves.
We did discuss entropy. So, I mean, eventually you punch that squirrel enough times, it's not going to have the constituent parts you need to
Now the
rebuild
question
the squirrel.
is it making the same squirrel or is it making different squirrels?
Well, it's making different squirrels. Even if it's the same squirrel, it's different squirrels.
What makes it a different squirrel?
Causality.
Go on.
Well, it can't be the same squirrel because when you punch it and it dies, it's dead. It's not bringing back the same squirrel, it's just reassembling the physical properties of that squirrel.
Okay, then what?
And at a
What
different
is-
point in time.
What is resurrection?
And that is losing, that squirrel that you punched is inevitably losing parts, right? It's losing spit, it's losing blood, it's losing hair, whatever it's losing when you punch it is not necessarily
now we're
getting
just
all of
talking
that
about
back.
mechanical efficiency here, okay? If you can plug in equal amount of matter and then get, squirrel.
Yeah, but you're not plugging in equal amount of matter unless you use more than one squirrel.
If it just takes matter and then turns it into squirrels.
Oh, well, that's not what you said. You said you would take the same squirrel and feed
I
it.
could conceivably do that.
Okay. But it's
Maybe.
never going to be the whole squirrel.
It won't be we're getting back into that, Ship of Theseus thing. Is the reconstituted squirrel from dead squirrel the same squirrel or is it different squirrel? You're saying different squirrel.
Yeah, but remember when we talked about the Ship of Theseus, we also talked about how important the human perspective is.
Right.
On that. That was the dependent factor of whether or not it was still the Ship of Theseus, is that did we recognize it as the Ship of Theseus still? And if we did, then yeah, because it's made of meaning.
So,
and not
the
thing.
punch squirrel of Theseus.
Theseus, the punching squirrel. Yeah, write that down. That is this theory. That is the name of this theory. Theseus, the punching squirrel.
Theseus, the punching squirrel. I'm going to put an apostrophe there. Punch-ed.
Yes. Well, it would be an accent, not necessarily an apostrophe.
I didn't spell squirrel right.
That's okay.
So, but if this machine that I've made to make Theseus the punching squirrel, if it programs the squirrel's brain the same way, so when it pops out, it's like, oh man, its existence. What is this? plug in. Oh man, its existence. The same. If it thinks it's the same squirrel over and over and over again before it is brutally punched to death.
It doesn't think that it's the same squirrel, does it? Do you know? Can you know? Remember, the only thing that made the Ship of Theseus, was that we gave it that name and we acknowledged it as the Ship of Theseus.
Right.
Right, so if you are the only observer and you are saying that this is the same squirrel...
Oh no, other people would be observing this.
Well, then
I'm
it's
sure
certainly
of
a
it.
different squirrel. It is most certainly a different squirrel.
Now, if the squirrel has the memories of the previous squirrel...
Doesn't matter. I mean, I would say that it doesn't matter.
So, if this...
Although, well, you know...
The final squirrel that pops out only remembers being birthed into existence and then being punched thousands and thousands of times to death. It would have a continuity of memory, right?
You're talking about a squirrel that remembers every time it's been punched into oblivion.
Yes.
Well, I think we have answered one particular question, which is you are a fucking monster. So
you say monster,
Theseus,
I say squirrel slayer extraordinaire.
Right, okay. We named it Theseus, but really, this is
Sisyphus.
Sisyphus. This is Sisyphus the squirrel.
The punching squirrel.
Change it. That makes more sense.
Sisyphus the punching squirrel.
Yeah. Sisyphus the punching squirrel.
I don't know how to spell Sisyphus.
S-Y-S...
E-P-H-U-S?
No, S-I-S-Y-P-H-U-S. I believe that's it.
Yeah, that looks
Sisyphus.
That
You know.
That looks more Greek.
I'm pretty sure that's it.
All right.
What the fuck are we talking about? Where are we at? What are we doing?
Well, we were talking about, being able to kill enough small things to make the universe cry uncle. I don't think squirrels are the way, even with a Sisyphus punching squirrel machine.
Rube Goldberg would be proud.
Depending on how I made it work. If it was just a series of tubes and glass that pooped out a squirrel on one end and started with a dead squirrel on the other. That whole device would go contrary to my original assertion on how to beat the universe, which is stop entropy. This would be making so much entropy.
This is like one of those sideshows you see on a dock by the beach. You know, you got the guy with the cats that are jumping through loops and stuff, and you got the guy doing characters, and then you've got you with this machine that keeps feeding the same,
Squirrel carcass.
squirrel pile of squirrel meat back into itself just so that you can kill the squirrel again. I'm picturing it, and in my head, what I'm hearing is "Sing, Sing, Sing." The Rube Goldberg song. Or maybe Flight of a Bumblebee. I could see that too. That would be a good song.
Could I destroy enough stars? Not necessarily with my fists. I'm not that hubristic.
Well, it is feasible for one man to kill a star.
With a lot of help.
With the right tools. With the right tools.
So how does one kill a star?
I don't know, but to me it seems absurd to say that it's not possible for a man to kill a star.
Yeah, I'm sure there are ways. Okay, you could throw another star into it. That would shorten the star's life. Because contrary to popular belief, a star is not like a campfire, where as long as you keep feeding it fuel, it'll keep burning. The bigger the star is, the shorter the life, because it burns through its fuel even faster. So the longest living stars in the universe are itty bitty little brown or little red dwarves. They just started their lives. If they were born at the beginning of the universe, 13.8 billion years ago, they've still got another 100 trillion years to live. They're efficient little bastards. But something like, I think it's YV Canis. I wish Kirky were here to do this. But stars that are absolutely massive, might only live 1 million years, but they will go off with so much passion. You're talking explosions that make entire galaxies, seem dim in comparison. If you can outshine 400 billion stars, that is a death to remember, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to kill a star. You're actually going to kill many stars.
Yes, I'm going to have to kill
trillions.
Let's see.
Theoretically,
there's 400 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy.
Still not even scratching the surface.
Right. And there's at least 100 billion galaxies in the observable universe.
And that's a pretty big thing. That's one of the biggest things we know about that you can physically think of as one object.
That is, physically connected to itself.
True.
Outlook not good.
Black holes are bigger, right? Are they not?
They're more massive.
Oh, okay. Well,
it depends on how you determine big. If you're going by mass, then yeah, they're some of the most massive things in existence. If you're going by physical size, well, they're absolutely tiny.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. I don't think I can fight the universe in any meaningful way.
No. See, that was my theory from the beginning.
Unless I reverse entropy.
All right, how are you going to reverse entropy? And why would that work?
Well, the universe is moving towards something, right? This is what it wants.
Seems to be that way.
Okay. If we can arrest entropy, we can keep it from going where it wants. We can make it static.
Okay, well, first let's establish what it seems like it wants. So if entropy, what is the end result of entropy? Because if entropy is the natural state of, or the natural process of things, what is the end?
Well, you've got a few different outcomes there. Maximized entropy would be a big rip scenario. You've got a few different ideas on how the universe will end. One of the most popular ones for a long time was the Big Crunch, the opposite of the Big Bang. And this was predicated on the assumption that gravity would eventually win out and that the universe would start collapsing until it went back into that itty-bitty point mass.
Well, it's going to get real hot before then.
Yeah, well, gravity being that powerful at that level, it's going to get real hot, but it's not going to get hot enough until the universe decides, all right, I'm going to reinvent myself again, and then detonate into another Big Bang. So one of the cosmological ideas of...
Reinvent itself.
Yes.
So what you're basically saying is that the universe is David Bowie.
Or Madonna.
I prefer David Bowie, so I'm going to go with that.
But Madonna's still alive.
She is. We lost the good one.
Please don't sue us. But the idea was cycles of Big Bang and Big Crunch, right? Well, we find out that the universe is not actually slowing down in its expansion, it's actually speeding up. And it's like, okay, what the hell's going on there? It's where you get the concept of dark energy. There's something counteracting gravity and accelerating rate. So you've got a few different in-game scenarios on that one. And it depends on the strength of gravity, which we still haven't quite figured out. The strength of dark energy. And the proportions thereof. If gravity is still strong enough to maintain local dominance over dark energy, then you're going to end up where when all the stars burn out eventually, but they're going to be kind of more or less in the same area. In a few billion to a trillion years, you'll still have a galaxy going, doing its thing, spinning around a supermassive black hole at its core. But everyone in that galaxy can only see that galaxy. Because every other galaxy, universe or space-time will be expanding at such a rate that no light from another galaxy can get to the home galaxy. So everything will just look dark. To those people, the entire universe will be nothing but that one galaxy. So that's one scenario. Another one is heat death. Which if there's not a name for a metal band, I've never heard one that has to be heat death.
Yes.
Opened by Tokamak. I would watch that. I'd go to that show. Nerd metal. Heat death is, well, everything just kind of burns out because of that, because entropy, and well, as that maximizes, it uses up more and more fuel to create more and more disorder, and because there's nothing there that can carry thermal energy, well, everything just gets fucking cold. Heat itself dies as a concept. So that's heat death. And then you have the big rip. And this is a scenario where dark energy so vastly outproportions gravity that...
tears the universe into shreds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rips it even beyond constituent particles. Like even protons dissolve over time.
Rips it a new mass hole.
Yeah. The only things that might survive for any significant period of time would be supermassive black holes. Black holes are also kind of like stars, in that the more massive they are, or the opposite of stars, excuse me, the more massive they are, the longer they last. Due to Hawking radiation, which is an
That's the radiation emitted from the event horizon, right?
Kinda.
Okay.
We're going to get into interactions of quantum mechanics with relativistic objects that are actually quantum objects because they're it's weird.
Okay, so I know we're losing the comedy a bit here, but I'm curious. Mechanic versus what was it? You just made a differentiation there.
quantum mechanics
Yeah.
and general relativity.
Okay. What are the differences? What's the difference between those two things?
All right. Before I get into this, I am not a physicist. I have collected this knowledge over years of...
But he plays one in the bedroom. It's a weird thing.
Thank you? How would you know?
It's a role play.
Why were you there?
Aha! My trick. It succeeded. It is confirmed.
Are you the reason I have a son?
Not that one.
Wait, what?
I only said that to get that pause.
Okay. I say again, I am not a physicist. Everything I know is probably half right, half wrong. Please correct me in the comments section. It's assembled years of watching PBS Space Time and attending some astrophysics lectures at IUPUI. So, in a nutshell, general relativity is the physics of the very large. It is things like planet scale and up. It is how light interacts with space, how it's the reason we have gravity, at least the general relativity description of gravity. So everything moves in a straight line. You might think that a planet is orbiting its star. It's not. It's moving in a straight line. What's making the curve is the mass of the star bending space-time in such a way that the straight line moves in a circular path. It changes the geometry of space-time in such a way to make that happen.
Right.
Same thing with gravity on a planet. You might think that you're just spinning around on the planet. You're not. You're going in a straight line. The planet just keeps pulling you back.
So what's the straight line then? Like, all that actually made perfect sense to me, but when you say that it's moving in a straight line, where is it moving from and to? If you took away space-time as a bending factor, where would it be moving from and to?
From its point of origin to its point of destination. That's as close as I can give you.
Right, so we just don't know.
Conceivably, everything would be moving from the position that the universe was
started
outward, to
right.
away from that point.
Right. Okay.
That's as good an answer I can give you.
Works well enough for me.
Quantum mechanics is the physics of the very small.
Yeah.
We're talking, quarks, muons. Look, just Google right now the standard model chart.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't find a chart on that, you need to really sharpen your Google skills. Just in Google Images, the standard model. You'll see a chart that has a bunch of different little particles, and it's a surprisingly small chart. It's smaller than the elemental table.
Makes sense, quantum mechanics and all.
Sure. There are people who understand quantum mechanics, but no one understands quantum mechanics as it relates to general relativity. So, general relativity works. We've done countless experiments. It bears itself out.
Once you get small enough, though,
Quantum mechanics,
shit gets
quantum
weird.
field theory, is that all these little particles that make up the standard model are actually fluctuations in fields that exist in the universe. To understand those, you kind of have to understand virtual particles, and virtual particles relate to not quantum mechanics, Hawking radiation. So, one interpretation of quantum field theory is that at the very, 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 very smallest of scales, you've got a universal quantum foam of particles popping into existence and then immediately out of existence because they meet their virtual or their virtual opposite,
right.
Their antiparticle. So they immediately annihilate each other, therefore never really existed, but they did, kinda. Quantum mechanics gets weird when you're used to thinking in terms of general relativity. I like GR. It's fun. quantum field theory scares me. So, you've got all these little particles interacting, and each one of these fields does a different, kind of governs a different aspect. For instance, electromagnetism is carried by the photon, which is, a little fluctuation in the electromagnetic field.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the Higgs boson, often called the God particle, and I hate that description. My God, it's so just headliney.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
buzzword.
A journalist coined that just to get their
it's a buzzword
article in circulation and people talking about it, which then got all the religious fundamentalists like, they're trying to say God's a particle. No, God, please stop. It's just a Higgs boson.
Yeah, that.
It is the carrier of the Higgs field, which gives electrons mass. It gives electrons mass, not everything mass as people think it does. If you could manipulate the Higgs field in any way you want, you wouldn't suddenly have anti-gravity, for instance. Because, being able to counteract the gravitational force of a massive object. That's not, you'd be able to make electrons go the speed of light, I suppose, maybe. Mm-hmm. Something that has mass cannot move the speed of light. Light, because it has no mass, can only move at the speed of light. So that's kind of one of those weird places where GR and QFT kind of agree.
So I just keep asking questions here, and we're getting sort of off topic, but
yeah,
that's okay. When we're talking about the speed of light, you mentioned that it was basically the speed of causality.
Yes.
So why are those the same?
All right.
Why does light travel at that speed?
In a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
Because light can travel at different speeds depending on what medium it's going through. Mm. As to why,
untrammeled, I guess maybe untrammeled light.
Yeah, and when there's nothing in the way.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay.
You'd have to talk to an actual physicist to get that answer.
Fair enough.
But
you're building a model of things in my head. So.
It has been explained to me. I don't remember the answer.
I can relate. One of the things that the people who are listening to this podcast will probably realize at a certain point is that I can conceptualize things very, very quickly and really play with them very, very quickly. But as far as remembering what the fuck I was just talking about and be able to expand on it, if I step away from it even for a fucking second.
For one split fucking second.
Yeah. No, then I'm done. There's a reason I sit down and try and write an entire chapter without getting up. Because if I don't, then when I sit back down, I got to read the whole damn thing again. Mm. And then I end up writing in between the lines, and then in between those lines, because I think of stuff while I'm reading it. I have that problem. I'm terrible at maintaining the filing cabinet of information that I bring in. If I have a filing cabinet, I have to read all the information every time I open the drawer.
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, that's mostly for you, actually, so you understand why I'm such a fucking idiot sometimes. That's how my brain works.
Oh, I've known that forever, Dave.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's why we can have the same conversation multiple times.
Yeah. Gives Garrett a chance to brag about the information over and over and over again. Okay, that's an ash, not a bug. Okay, we're good. In my water.
A little bit of carbon never hurt anybody.
Don't care about ash.
Carbon-14, if you get enough of it, though, it's radioactive.
Good to know.
That's how carbon dating works. Mm. Anyway.
So, as far as the universe fighting you, actually, it's probably a good time for a break. Maybe we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and answer some of the. We'll try and bring it back to why you are inevitably going to fail at fighting the universe.
That's fair.
All right. Now a word from our sponsors.
Oi, you hear that?
Aye, in the thicket. Rush 'em!
Oh dear.
When you work up a sweat like this, you'll need a soap as strong as a Highlander.
Get back here, you wee toolie!
And that soap is Scottish bog.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Over the break, a thought occurred to me that in my
thought occurs.
yes, and not the that hoe over there type. Speaking of which, where's my wife?
I don't know. When was
Edit
she
that
supposed
out.
to be? I will try, but it's going to be buried in the middle of this.
Okay. In my attempts to fight the universe, I may be solely responsible for the creation of the final world to live on. Some people in the audience may know of the concept of the Kardashev scale of civilization. And it starts at 0, which is, well, really nothing's going on in the way of civilization.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about.
And then it scales up to Kardashev 1, which some people say we're a Kardashev 1 civilization. I don't agree. Our energy consumption isn't nearly enough. I'd say we're like maybe a 0.5, 0.6.
How did the scale go in?
Kardashev himself topped it out at 3.
Okay.
And a Kardashev scale 3. But there are some people that like to expand it to a Kardashev 9, which is insane.
At that point, are we just energy beings existing inside energy worlds? So we're basically just energy or something? I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
There are other scales of measuring civilizations, more on the technological than scale size of things.
Like that movie AI, that horrible bullshit of a film.
What movie?
AI, the one with that kid from The Sixth Sense and Jude Law.
I'm sorry, you keep saying your mouth moves, but something just blanks out.
I have that effect on people. AI was a movie. It was a movie with the kid from The Sixth Sense. I don't remember his name.
I just keep hearing it's a movie.
Okay.
I'm not even hearing the title AI. That's the joke I'm trying to get across.
Oh, okay. Well,
So,
then just continue what you were talking about then. I'm just going to keep drinking wine.
what were the aliens in that? I thought they were just like some benevolent. Oh,
They were
this
like
is a
beings
boy
of-
who was loved, even though
It's
he's a
been-
robot.
It's been years. He wasn't a robot. I don't think he was. I don't think he was a
Pretty
robot.
sure the boy was a robot.
No, Jude Law was a robot.
Yeah.
He was a robot gigolo. In my head, I just heard, I'm just a gigolo. Beep, boop, beep, boop.
Which, thanks to those real sex dolls, I suppose we're getting closer to needing a robot gigolo. Anyway,
This is like the hub. This is like the train hub. We are derailing in all directions.
at once. So, a Kardashev 1 scale civilization utilizes all the energy that falls on their planet. And I mean utilizes it, not just, lets it radiate away into space or anything like that. They might use it in the form of solar. They might use any kind of energy generation that you might need, right?
Mm.
So that's a lot of fucking energy. A Kardashev 2 scale civilization uses all the energy produced by their home star, which is orders of magnitude more.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a neat little jumping off point. Once you're at a Kardashev 2 scale civilization, my favorite analogy of a Kardashev 2 scale civilization declaring war on the planet Earth as it exists today isn't so much like the United States declaring war on Liechtenstein. It's more like the entire NATO alliance declaring war on a particularly smart 3-year-old.
Yes, I can see that.
Giving the idea of the power disparity there. Even using like modern day technology. You could build a Kardashev 2 civilization using modern day technology. It'd take a while, but there's no reason we couldn't build O'Neill cylinders. I will get into that in a moment.
A 3-year-old, to his credit, has, mastered the wow, see, I lost it.
Yep.
I lost it.
And it's never coming back.
No.
A Kardashev's 3 civilization uses and utilizes all the energy of their home galaxy.
Okay.
Again,
So this is just scales of energy consumption.
yeah, more or less.
Okay.
And don't think about it in terms of consumption, but utilization.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So there are scales above, like a 4 might use their whole galactic cluster, but for our intents and purposes, we're going to stop at 3.
Object permanence.
What about it?
That was what I was getting at. A 3-year-old that, to his credit, has mastered object permanence.
Most have at that point.
Yeah.
I was going to say a 3-year-old who has, actually mastered differential calculus.
Oh, well, that is impressive for a 3-year-old.
Yes, it's impressive for a 3-year-old, but nothing in comparison to the power of entire NATO. So, if I were to actually fight the universe and give an ultimate power and, let's say, infinite longevity, I would
You're
start.
not asking much.
No, not at all. I mean, if you can't get that by Tuesday, what are you doing with your life?
Hey, Peter.
I would start with building some O'Neill cylinders, which are orbital habitats. They're a classic one, I believe, is 20 kilometers long and 5 kilometers in diameter. And you got 2 of them that are counter-rotating so that they balance each other out.
Mm-hmm.
And you can fit about a city's worth, a little bit more than a city's worth, inside one of those things. And while we're building that, I'd also start disassembling Mercury. Who needs Mercury? I mean, it's a nice little planet, but it could be so much more. If we just start building orbiting or soul orbiting power sats, and then turning those into more O'Neill cylinders, and over the course of a few thousand years, we'd have the majority of our population just orbiting the star in a Dyson swarm. People have heard of a Dyson sphere, typically from that episode of Star Trek, where it's a solid structure encompassing a star that the Enterprise gets trapped in, and then you never hear about that ever again. I think that'd be one major scientific development or discovery. Once you've built that Dyson swarm, and it's a bunch of little satellites that collect most of the star's energy. Once you've got that, you've got the ability to move the star by making everything orbit in such a way that you're turning the light of the star itself into a rocket.
You're turning the light into a rocket?
Yes. Light doesn't have mass, but it does exert pressure.
I didn't know that about light.
Yep.
It exerts pressure?
Yes, through momentum. Light doesn't have mass, but it does have momentum. Which, once you get really, really down, they don't become interchangeable, but they can be used for some of the same things. So once you get that star moving, well, you can start moving it through the galaxy in any direction you want. And by this point, you may or may not have disassembled the entire solar system. We might keep Earth around just because it's sentimental. And this whole time, you're also using the light of the star to accelerate little colonization spaceships. And after about 30 million years or so, even using modern day technology and no FTL, no faster than light travel whatsoever, you could conceivably build a Dyson swarm around every star in the galaxy.
Okay.
Now you are a true Kardashev 3 civilization. You're capturing and either storing or using on the spot the entire energy output of a galaxy. This is a mind-boggling amount of energy. But at that point, you're going to have a mind-boggling amount of people. A Dyson swarm could contain, I believe, 40 trillion Earth's worth of living space. So you would have tiny religious sects of cultists that are in the billions.
That's a lot of Kool-Aid, man.
Craft? I know you're never going to consider sponsoring us, but if you are,
If you do, we will make so many awful commercials.
we will. Not for free, though. The price has got to be right. Anyway,
If the price isn't right, it becomes a parody.
so you've got these. When you decide to move a star that way, that structure is called a Shikhatov thruster. It doesn't move very fast, or it doesn't accelerate very quickly. But over a long enough span of time, you can accelerate a star as long as the star is active, I suppose. So, let's say every star in the galaxy has a Shikhatov thruster around it, and we decide, you know what? You know what'd be even cooler than this? We're gonna move all these stars towards the center of the galaxy and use their material to build the final planet. And as the God King of the Milky Way at this point, that is what I will command.
What would happen to physics in the galaxy?
What
Would
do you
it
mean?
change much?
No, the physics would be the same.
Do you have a galaxy at that point?
What is a galaxy, really?
It's a whole bunch of stars
Not just a whole bunch of stars. I mean,
orbiting a
orbiting a...
black hole.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure I had that right because that's what it was in my head. But I was like, am I misremembering that?
Yeah, it's orbiting a supermassive black hole.
Yeah.
We're going to build a hypermassive black hole. Using the
biggest, blackest hole.
Yes. Using most of those stars that we've captured in Shikhatov thrusters and crashing them into the black hole to really beef that boy up. Till it has an event horizon that I believe is about 0.48 light years across.
Okay.
Yeah. Then the rest of the material in the galaxy we use to build a shell world around that black hole, where the lowest point of the shell world has gravity of about 1.01 g. And then you build about 280 million more shells on top of that, each spaced about 100 kilometers apart, using active support to support the whole structure, which can be powered by the black hole. You know, you'd think standing on a planet, that's safe, right? But if you really think about it, you're standing on top of a radioactive volcano that could go off at any moment. That's crazy.
Just any given planet.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
any
yeah.
rocky planet like
yeah,
Earth.
Yeah.
Well, Mars, you wouldn't have that problem. But you'd think standing on Earth, that's safe. Not really, if you think about it that way.
Okay.
Because this is a radioactive black hole. One of the reasons Earth is it has.
Are there any non-radioactive black holes?
Or did I say black hole? I meant volcano.
Okay, I was going to say.
Yeah.
far as
We're
I
standing on
know-
top of a radioactive volcano.
Okay.
One of the reasons Earth is the way it is because we have a lot of fissionables in our core. Things like, uranium.
Right.
A black hole, people think black hole, oh, that's scary as all hell. Well, the black hole is far more predictable than a radioactive volcano.
Yes.
It's a quantum object.
Macro organization.
It's super dense, yes, and if you fall into it, you're going to have a bad time.
How long would that bad time last?
Depends on the size of the black hole. The bigger, the worse. But you build your shell world on top of that. You wouldn't actually experience the spaghettification effect because the black hole is so large. In a strange way, the bigger the black hole, the worse way to die because you're going to feel more of it, but the gentler it is because you can get relatively closer to it without experiencing too much time dilation and too much tidal stress. Spaghettification is what happens when you experience the tidal stress of a black hole. You get stretched to the point that you split into spaghetti strings, and you might feel that depending on how.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
something
it's
that
bad.
intense seems like it would have to happen really quick in my brain, but that's not how those things work. It just seems like something that insane, like from a black hole, would be. It seems in my brain that in my mind it would be instantaneous.
Yeah.
Like so fast you wouldn't even feel it, but
If it's a small black hole, yes, that's
Okay.
what would happen there.
Okay.
Of course, if it's a really small black hole, it would explode before you really had a chance to feel much of anything.
No.
Smaller black holes detonate very fast. The smaller the black hole, the shorter the life. Also, the smaller the explosion.
Right.
You could potentially, if you can make black holes, make little black hole artillery weapons that, time their black hole generation and accelerate to the point that it air bursts. I mean, at that point, why are you even fighting? You've mastered black holes. So you build this shell world that is like 1.27 light years in diameter. The livable surface area of this bastard is 11 times the surface area of all the planets in the known universe.
Okay.
With a power output to match. Because all you got to do is just live off that Hawking radiation from that black hole. Going back to virtual particles. So Hawking radiation is what happens when those virtual particle pairs can't meet up. One ends up in the event horizon. Its antiparticle, well, it's just free to go wherever the fuck it wants now. So it's spawned into existence, and it goes and does its thing, and then it'll probably get annihilated by another, similar particle of equal-ish mass, because you're going to have more or less equal parts antimatter and matter.
Everybody needs a devil.
Exactly. So you can live off the Hawking radiation on a birch world or a birch planet. That's what this final structure is called.
Living off of the Hawking radiation?
Yeah.
You didn't really make that connection there.
It's a source of energy.
Okay, so you're just taking the runoff from that.
Well,
So they don't destroy each other. You're talking about Hawking radiation. So
No, they are destroying each other.
they said that they weren't, because one went off into the black hole. And the other
okay,
one...
yes. Those aren't. That particular pair is not destroying each other.
Okay.
But that virtual particle is probably not long for this world, because it's going to find another particle. Once that's split
Just
up,
not
they're
the
no longer
identical
virtual
opposite.
particles.
Oh, okay.
That is now a full particle. It exists and is not immediately
Oh.
annihilated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we're almost kind of talking about
A
like
black
the
hole is
birth
a
of
matter
particle.
generator.
Well, okay. I want to make sure I'm conceptualizing this properly. It almost sounds like we're talking about the birth of a particle.
Yeah.
Okay. So a particle is only born when it doesn't meet its initial opposite. So those separate. That opposite goes into the black hole. It goes off and does what it wants, but it's still going to meet something out there that's going to kill it.
Maybe. More than likely.
Okay.
But that's not the only way particles are created.
Okay.
Fluctuations in the quantum field that actually stabilize.
And
that can happen too, yeah.
Okay.
The quantum foam is a crazy thing. Life finds a way.
I want to talk more about the quantum foam, but we're running out of time.
We are.
I'm deeply interested in the quantum
By
foam.
collapsing the entirety of the Milky Way into a hypermassive black hole with a shell world around it, to try and fight entropy, if we can do that to every galaxy, we can win.
Okay.
Join me, my brothers and sisters, in my fight against the universe.
I can maybe conceive of you doing that to one universe, and maybe multiple
You
universes.
mean one galaxy?
Or galaxy, sorry. One galaxy, and maybe even multiple galaxies. I have a hard time believing that you are going to live to do it to every galaxy. We're back at that problem.
Yeah, well,
Fuck me, right?
a man can only do so much. And if my legacy is to
But
build...
you are the man that wants to beat the universe, that wants to just, well...
You've heard
really
that phrase,
destroy
shoot for the
universe.
star?
You're the supervillain.
Huh?
You're the greatest supervillain of all time.
If I end up pulling off a birch planet...
You'll take that title.
I will take that. Yeah, that's fine. I will murder billions of stars to preserve my species' heritage. Fun. This kind of interesting little fact or stipulation about a birch planet is it's probably the biggest single thing that can actually be governed by one body.
You think so?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to imagine an entire planet even being governed by one body.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not saying it would be, but it potentially could be.
Do you think if we're this is kind of off topic, but still really a really interesting question, maybe for a different podcast, but I'm going to try it anyway. Do you think if the entire planet, Earth, we'll use that as an example, if the entire planet becomes governed by one body, do you think it's possible to have that happen and not have somewhat of a monoculture?
A lot would depend on how that government would operate.
I just happen to think about that.
Yeah.
It's like if we're going to have one government over the entire planet, it seems like we would almost inevitably have to be at least somewhat of a monoculture. Multiculturalism would almost have to cease to exist in any meaningful way.
That's a tough one, because it would depend on...
We would have a human culture.
I mean, I'd argue that we have kind of a human culture.
We do, but that human culture is all still divided up into into different cultures.
Yeah,
subcultures.
No doubt.
Yeah.
It would, but I think a big part of it would depend on what kind of government you end up with. Is it a tolerant government? Is it an intolerant government? If it's an intolerant government, then they're going to try to do a monoculture, but they're going to fail because a lot of people are going to rebel. If you have a tolerant government, they're going to more likely succeed at making a monoculture, but it's going to be... It's not going to be a true monoculture in the sense of, like, I don't know, the Borg.
Right.
You're not going to end up with a hive mind. Kind of everyone acts the same and everyone believes the same. Because I just don't see that actually happening outside of, well...
Tyranny?
Neuralink.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Just because there's going to be little variations that are going to butterfly into bigger things. Different people face different stresses, which forces different cultural adaptations to survive that particular environment.
Right.
I think of cultures as being an extension of evolution.
Yeah, I can see that.
If you try to take the Inuit culture and, I don't know, slam it smack dab in the middle of the South Pacific, that culture is not going to survive. If you take the culture of New York City and then slap it smack dab in the middle of the Amazon, that's not going to last very long either.
I don't know, have you met New Yorkers?
Yeah, they talk a big game, but, you know, you remove them from their city and they don't know what to do.
Fair enough. I'm just imagining a New Yorker in that situation. It's like, it's the biggest fucking mosquito I've ever seen in my life. You want to fight?
I was trying to think of him trying to hail a cab from a slot. But, yeah. I love mega structures, and an O'Neill cylinder and a Birch World and a Dyson Swarm, that's really just scratching the surface. You've got McKendree cylinders, you've got Matryoshka brains.
Would you consider yourself a colonizer?
That is such a loaded question in this day and age.
Oh, it is so loaded. It is so fucking loaded.
I would go colonize Mars.
Okay.
Okay, let me put a caveat on that. 5 years ago, if you would have asked, hey, I got a free ticket to go to Mars and colonize it. By the way, you're not coming back and you most probably will die horribly.
You would take it up.
I would go do that.
But now you have a son. And you're married.
But I have a family, and yeah, I don't think Mars is a good place for an infant.
I think Elton John wrote a song about that.
He did?
Spaceship Dude, something like that.
I have no idea.
Rocket Man, Garrett. There's no one there to raise your kids, even if you did. He's the Rocket Man. Burning out his fuse up there alone. You've heard the song Rocket Man.
I have heard of the song Rocket Man. I've not listened to it all the way through.
You've never heard Rocket Man all the way through?
I've heard it. I didn't listen to it all the way through.
Okay. Fair enough. To be fair, this is another one of those situations where David Bowie's better. To me, there are two songs about Rocket Men, and one of them is better than the other. Space Odyssey. Oddity, sorry. Space Oddity is infinitely better, in my opinion, than Rocket Man, although I also like Rocket Man. But
I wouldn't go infinitely. I'd go exponentially.
okay, fair enough.
You know, that's at least quantifiable.
You materialistic son of a bitch. Okay.
You gotta start somewhere.
To quote Boyd Tinsley. Tinsley.
So, why won't the universe fight me?
Because it knows it will win.
No. Because it wants me to make a birch planet in the attempt.
Why? Because it can't do it itself?
No. No.
Why? You seem to know an awful lot about this universe.
You have to study your foe very carefully.
Okay. You think the universe hasn't studied its foe very carefully?
No, I think I'm beneath its notice.
Okay. You are a true American. The underdog always wins, even if it's a man against the entire fucking universe.
When I see a completely natural Dyson swarm that was not built by intelligent hands, then I will believe that the universe could construct a birch planet just for me, because it respects me now. Because I dared to spit in its eye.
You know what? That's a great bookend. I feel like we started with a fucking stupid question and we ended with a equally, almost perfectly equally fucking stupid answer.
That's fair.
I think we're good. And we are at, for those of you who don't know, we do these in the evening, so we are at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the dot right now. I think we've done it. I think we've gone exactly nowhere.
I think we've answered why the universe won't fight me. Take that, science. Take that.
You're in for a battering, you soggy cunt! Bloody hell. Scottish Bog Soap.
Oi, there he is!
Shit.